Welcome to the NAMB Podcast, where we bring you the voices that drive the mortgage industry. Join dynamic hosts Ginger Bell and Matt Shields as they dive into bold conversations with top experts, industry leaders, and change makers from across the country. From insider insights to game-changing trends, this is your front row seat to what's happening right now in the world of home finance.
Well, hey there. Welcome to another episode of the NAMB Podcast. My name is Ginger Bell, and I have my co-host and partner in crime here, Matt Shields. Matt, how are you today?
Ginger, I am doing fantastic. I'm really excited for our guest. I've been working in the trenches of membership committee with him, and I'm so excited to have him on, and our listeners can learn more about him.
Absolutely. So, hey, let's not delay. Let's introduce our guest today, Mr. Jeff Parry, who is a NAMB director, the NAMB membership chair, and probably one of the coolest people I know that I love to hang out with. So, Jeff, thanks for hopping on the podcast with us.
Thanks, Ginger, and thanks, Matt. I appreciate all the kind words here. I'll just add a couple of things here. One, I also on the executive committee of NAMB, I'm also the treasurer, so you can tag treasurer and finance committee chair on there, only because it actually helps to give a really, really good overview of the entire association and how it all works together so we can serve our members. So just good information to have. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. And it's like amazes me how much you do and you're involved in, and how easily you do it, and how you make it look so easy and fun in doing that. And I want to just honestly just start there, because it's always interesting to me, one, how someone got into the industry, and two, how did you get involved with NAMB, and what prompted all of that for you?
Well, sure. I could probably spend the whole time just telling that story in and of itself. We don't have enough time for all of it, but I'll give you a quick synopsis because this is a super cool story. So back in the mid 90s, I was a police officer. You can tell by the haircut, probably.
No way.
I was a police officer, and my wife and I had just bought a home, and we were looking for a home equity loan, and knew nothing about the mortgage industry back then. And so went down to the local bank and asked for a home equity loan, but we couldn't get it because we didn't have enough equity in the house at the time. At that time, the banks, the max they would go to would be an 80% combined loan to value.
Right.
So we didn't have quite enough, and so I started reaching out for some alternatives, and met this guy came up to our house and said, "Oh yeah, I can do all of that. I can go to 100%." And this was, if you remember back then, the beginning of what we knew as the subprime business, which is now the non-QM business, right? So this guy said, "Well, yeah, no problem." And then at the end of the meeting, he said, "You seem like a really outgoing guy. I'm looking to expand my business. Would you ever be interested in being a loan officer?" And I said, "Well, yeah, you never know." At that time, I was making a whopping $10.22 an hour as a police
No way.
Yeah, that's what we made back then. You work nights and weekends, and you work 4 days.
And the risk.
Nights. Pardon me?
The risk.
Yeah. Back then, it was even crazier because I was in Vermont, so I'm from Vermont, and everybody in Vermont has guns, and there were no gun laws, there were no concealed permit laws, and everybody, you wrote a loan in the squad cars. But anyway, to make a long story short, I decided to check this out a little bit, and I went to this guy's office. His phones are ringing off the hook, and I watched for a couple of weeks, and he said to me, he says, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Well, it seems pretty interesting. You're obviously busy," and he goes, "Well, I'm looking for a partner." And I said, "Well, that sounds kind of weird. Didn't know who I was or any of that stuff." And well, it turns out he was looking for a partner because he was wanted in 2 other states for fraud. So once I figured that out, we called my buddies down at the state police, and they came over and arrested him in the parking lot.
So you didn't know you were a police officer?
No, well, he did. He actually knew that from my application.
Wow.
the funny part is that after he was working out of a real estate appraiser's office, and so I just never went back there. But the next day, the lady from the appraiser's office started calling me. She goes, "Hey Jeff, da da da." I said, I don't even work for this guy. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know how to help you." She was persistent. She called me every day because customers were calling her office, which was where this guy worked out of.
Wow.
So in 1996, I called up my dear friend who was a real estate attorney and said, "Here's my story. What do I got to do to get into this business?" And he referred me to the Vermont
Legally
of banking, right? And in 1996, there was no broker licensing in Vermont.
Yeah.
Okay. So they told me what I needed to be familiar with. And ultimately, I got through it all. And I remembered the name of a company that this guy was working with customers. So I found the number online. I called up. And for those of you who are a little older in this business, a company called WMC Mortgage, which was Weyerhaeuser Mortgage, based out of Virginia.
Wow.
And I talked to the guy there, and sure enough, he goes, "Well, I got 4 loans. We'd love to have you."
Yeah.
He sent me up a Fed. He goes, "I don't know what happened to the guy. He disappeared." I said, "Well, I know where he is, and you're not going to find him for about 10 to 20 years. So to make a long story short, I got set up with them. They sent me my stip sheet. I put on a suit, and I went to the guy's house, this man and woman's house, and says, "Would you like this loan? You got to give me your tax returns." And I'm reading down my list of stuff. And sure enough, I got it all. I called my lawyer to do the title search, and I closed my first loan. And they wrote me a broker check, which exceeded my entire month's worth of pay as a police officer.
Yeah.
So I started with that in 1996, and I built a business. I ended up with 23 loan officers. We did business in 15 states.
Wow.
I became involved in beta testing a lot of technology. I've got a lot of technology in my background, and so built that up. And I was also part of building a piece of mortgage software, because at the time, if y'all remember, in the early 2000s, the rates got really, really low. And we had so much business, we couldn't keep up with it all. So I said, well, let's look at some software where we can manage the stuff. So couldn't find any except for big bank software. Ultimately, I ended up creating my own software. And I sold that in 2010 to a company called Focus IT. They turned it into a product called Pulse, which is part of their current program. And our software was the very first one where loan officers could connect with customers, and they could upload their docs securely. And we partnered up with Calyx back then. And so that was my intro into the mortgage business.
Wow.
Circa 2015, moved to Florida, met Kimber White at an event. I got licensed in Florida, and I decided I wanted to get back involved with the community. And I went to an event for the Florida Association of Mortgage Brokers, the Palm Beach chapter, who was looking to reform. And for all of you who are listening here, the best way you can get involved in this business is to join your local chapters, your state chapters, and then even NAMB, because once you hear the story, you'll see you can start from nothing in the industry to get to where I've gotten to today. So I got involved with my local chapter. Second year later, I became the chapter president. I got involved with Florida State, which is where I met Valerie Saunders, who is now our leader here, one of our leaders here at NAMB. And eventually I was asked to join NAMB as an employee. I went from an employee to NAMB to their board of directors for several years, and then I got voted on the executive committee. And so now I've had a tenure here at NAMB, which lasts many, many years, and has been super rewarding. The best part about it is being able to give back to our membership, be able to give some experience and tell a few stories like we did here today, and really give back to the industry. So I know that was a long story and a long intro, but I think it's kind of fun. Hopefully your readers your viewers will enjoy this.
No, really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool story.
I think it's a great story. And, as you can see behind me, I collect wine, and it's one of the things I do for fun. And if we're drinking wine, that story is about 2 hours long, just so you know, because there's a lot of funny parts that go in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, after I moved to Florida, my wife said, I sold the software company. My wife said, what do you really like to do the best? And I said, I love the mortgage business. I love helping people get their homes. And then I look back at my career. I helped people as a police officer. I also was a volunteer fireman, and I helped start an ambulance squad in my community. So I look at my career, and it's really all been helping people, about
You're
helping
a servant.
people.
Yeah.
I think that's the case. And so, I think my role here at NAMB is very fitting. I actually, the membership committee, by the way, is probably one of the most challenging committees that we have here at NAMB, because membership is the backbone of our association, right? Without members, we have no plight, right? We do everything to help our members succeed in their business. We educate them. We teach them about government affairs and advocacy. We have certifications to help them specialize in becoming, a specialist in veterans lending. You could be an FHA specialist, a VA specialist, not a credit repair specialist, but a credit specialist, understanding how to guide people through that process. NAMB also has several levels of professional certifications. I carry the Certified Residential Mortgage Specialist, the CRMS designation. And I think there's only about 300 of us in the whole country. But I'll tell you what, guys and girls, when I have that designation behind my name and when I'm talking to my customers, boy, that brings a lot of credibility to you. It really, really, really does. And then there's several others you can find on the NAMB website, CMC. Please take a look at NAMB.org, and your viewers can look at all these things and find out what's there, along with the benefits of membership and so forth. So I encourage everybody to get involved. I've gotten involved. I've been in state and national leadership since 2015. So what's that? It's
10 years now.
10 years.
11 years.
10 years at this level. And I look back, even when I was in Vermont, I was involved in the Vermont Association of Mortgage Brokers and was a delegate to the National Association. So that goes way back to 2007, I think, maybe even before. But anyway, it's all about spending the time doing things that you like to do and helping other people succeed. That's the biggest joy I get. I love being at a closing and having customers smile that either they bought their first home or they bought their dream home. And then you've helped them save money by refinancing. Everybody knows the value of doing that and the joy you get out of it. So.
Yeah. I love your story, Jeff, and thank you for sharing that, because, I think for so many of us who get into the industry, you've been doing something else. I mean, Matt, you were the same way. You were working at a golf course, when you got in. I was a corporate trainer with Dale Carnegie Training, and had a friend of mine who said, hey, we need some training developed. Can you come over here? And so, I think that's important for our listeners that are newer, that are maybe, and I know, Matt, you have this, because in the young professionals, you have people that are still doing it part-time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So started. And so I think having that to where you can hear, hey, this is what I was doing. This is what I saw. You can skip the part as far as, putting somebody in jail.
That's wild. That is so wild.
That was a benefit of the job at the time, right?
But I mean, just having that idea. And the other thing that I think is so important, for our listeners, especially for our newer generation that's listening to this, is you can create what you want with this.
Correct.
Amen. Amen.
And that's the thing that is so amazing. For me, I mean, I've created businesses. I've created and sold businesses, just like you've created and sold technology. I've done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you see a need, then it's like, what can I do? And I think, especially for our next generation that's coming up, and you look at the technology that is at hand, with AI and with all of these other things that can solve so much for us in our industry, that it's like, hey, jump in with both feet. NAMB is developing, so much as far as the certifications you talked about. To be able to help you, right?
Well, it gives you credibility, and it's kind of scary, right? Most of the younger people now, and I have adult children that have wandered their way into their careers. It's a tough business when you're younger, so that's why we put together the Young Professionals Group, and Matt's my vice chair, and he's in charge of that particular group in our membership committee. And it's great to see the young folks get on the calls. They're once a month, Matt, I believe. And you guys talk about what's affecting you. You start networking and sharing. And that's the thing that you really get out of membership, right? So as the membership chair, my job is to try to, increase our membership, but more importantly, bring quality benefits to folks. So getting involved in your local chapters, in your state and your national chapters is incredibly important to your success, because you're going to get access to webinars. You're going to get access to networking, plenty of events where you can go. We've got, in Orlando here coming up in January, our NAMB Focus event, which is it's not as big as our national event out in Vegas each year, but we get hundreds and hundreds of people that come together, and you're seeing some incredible speakers talking about the industry. You get a chance to talk to board members and other members. And quite frankly, I've met some great people at some of these events that have eventually come on to be parts of our committees. Join a committee. All right. Join a committee. Then you get to be, if you want to be, you get to chair a committee. And then from there, you get to looking at maybe a state leadership role, and even as my experience has been, even a national leadership role. I'm so thankful that I've had the opportunity to do these things. But unless you get involved in that membership and you get out there and getting involved, you'll never have the opportunity. So the other key thing is, when you get the opportunities, take advantage of them, because they don't come around all that often. And when you do, you must jump on that. At least investigate it. It may not be for you, but if you don't ask questions, you're never going to get to that next step. And that's how I've gone through my life and in this business, by accelerating it by interest, by not being afraid to do something. And if you're in this business, you're already not afraid, because we all work on a commission basis, right? You don't, unless you close loans, you don't make any money.
Yeah,
so,
you're operating on a level of stress every day.
That is correct. So, in addition to searching down that next loan, creating relationships with the realtors, create relationships with your peers, create relationships with your networks, your associations, and just get involved. It will help you. It's really hard to convince somebody that hasn't done it. But once you get involved, I guarantee you're going to want to do more, because you wouldn't be in this business if you didn't already have that inside your heart.
Absolutely. I love what you said about the camaraderie and the friendships, because that's such a big, it's such a big perk of being in a group outside of technology, outside of education, outside of certifications, is the people who you're meeting at the events, people you're meeting in the committees. You're making friends for life. They're across the country in different markets. You're able to share stories and best practices. And I feel like just, meeting the two of you, it's definitely made me a more well-rounded loan officer, more well-rounded person, and just being able to engage with everybody and just have the camaraderie, such a big thing for the group. I love it.
Yeah. And just to add to that real quick, when, oftentimes we get a loan where, someone calls me, they have a second home in a state where I'm not licensed. But guess what? I'm pretty sure I know somebody who is, that's either on one of my committees or on my board. And I can literally say to my customer, I can't help you, but someone who's on my board is licensed in that state. They're top notch. I've spent lots of time with them, and I'm able to refer. And guess what? That person. I'm in Florida, right? So I get all those opportunities. If, for someone in Ohio who may not be licensed in Florida, a lot of people come down here for second homes. So, my phone rings all the time from people saying, "Hey, Jeff, I got a customer. They're looking for a second home. Can you help them?" Absolutely, you can. But unless I got engaged, I'd never have access to that network. Right? So think of it as another way of building your business as well, other than just the old-fashioned realtor relationships and marketing. Those are all important, no doubt about it. But the more they're out there, the more you get involved, the more you know, right? The more industry knowledge you get, and you're always picking something up. One of the coolest things I have is somebody will call me inevitably once a year with a set of circumstances that I don't have a program for, right? God forbid they live in a condo-tel in or some non-warrantable situation. They don't have any verifiable income. We all know that there's tons of programs out there, but I'm able to call some of my friends that are on these boards that I know have been in the business and say, "Hey, I got this client that needs this, this, and this," and they'll say, "Oh, perfect lender for you. Here's they are. I'm going to have my AE call you later on." And the next thing you know, you're connected. I've got a deal put together, a ready loan for my lender. I build a relationship with that lender. Fortunately, I'm a broker owner, so I have the, in addition to being an MLO, I'm also own the company. So I'm able to create those relationships with the wholesalers. But if I wasn't, I would certainly go to my boss and say, "Hey, I got this loan. These guys can do it. Can we sign up with them as a wholesale lender?" The other great thing too is you build relationships with wholesale lenders. Mm-hmm. We as brokers, right? We need those relationships. And isn't it nice? Isn't it nice to know somebody that you can call and say, "Hey, you know what? I need some help. Do you guys do this type of loan? And could you assign me an AE? I'd like to get signed up with you." And sure enough, you go right to the top of the line because the people that come to these folks are leaders, right? They're leaders that want to give back. Like, you guys are giving back by hosting the podcast here. Ginger, I've known you for years and years. We've done lots of stuff together, both in the mortgage business and outside of the mortgage business. It's been a tremendous experience working with you, Matt. I know you're younger, but we spent some time in the last 2 years. Your energy is contagious, and love the fact that you got involved here. I bet you didn't think you were going to be on the podcast show when you first got into this.
Wasn't planning on it, but it's for me joining NAMB. I was a younger guy coming in, didn't know anybody, and my whole mindset coming in was, let me just be open to any opportunity that comes up. It was outside my wheelhouse, but I think a big one for me joining NAMB, I went from being, in my mind, an originator who I could help with loans to my understanding of the industry has grown so much in a handful of years. Yeah, how it really works. And that's one of the biggest things I've taken away is just how it made me, I feel like, the best at what I can do as an originator. For sure. Well, I'm going to put my membership hat on right now, because a big part of this is talking about our membership. And thanks for letting us tell the story. I felt like it was a storytelling session rather than a podcast, but I guess same thing. Yeah. And I appreciate the opportunity. But I do want to get to a little business here about our membership. So, one of the questions we have is, why should you join NAMB, right? One of the big things. Well, we've talked about the networking, the getting engaged in the community. Advocacy, huge thing for NAMB, right? Mm-hmm. Hopefully everybody knows that's watching knows that NAMB got the trigger leads bill passed. Mm-hmm. All right, the Privacy Act, and that's huge for us. That's after it was passed, I think, in August. Mm-hmm. And we had a 6-month rule writing session. So in February, that baby should roll out. And then that will prohibit, everybody getting 500 phone calls from your competitors when you run their credit report. It's a huge thing. It was one of the only things this year that actually got passed that was 100% bipartisan. There were no votes on this bill. And that's pretty amazing.
And I'm going to let you keep going, but I do want to remind everyone that was 7 years in the making. So that trigger leads bill took a long time, and that tenacity of stick-to-itiveness, I think, is the word that Lauren used.
Yeah.
And so, those are the kind of things, and that's there's so many things that happen on that advocacy side. That can keep unintended consequences happening too. So not just the things that we happen as far as, say, a bill passing, but language that's included in a bill or, in something is just as important, right?
No question about it. And you have to remember too, the legislators also have multiple things they're working on at once, and trying to get a consolidated group to actually focus on it. The bill starts with somebody who takes it up. You've got to get a champion in the legislature, right? And how do you get a champion? Well, you have to find somebody that that maybe on a housing committee. Some of the younger legislators are really good to work with, because they're looking for something to champion, right? They really, really are. And then once they're in there, they need to be educated about it, because they may not know all of the ins and outs, but guess who does, right? The folks in the industry, right? So I could tell you that last year, NAMB spent hours and hours and hours in DC working and meeting with these legislators, giving our feedback. And I can tell you, we probably spent, over $250,000 of time, and don't forget, you got to donate to the PACs. You got to do things to be able to get to the table, right? Once you're at the table, you got to do the right things. Our legislative conference in April of every year is critically important. We invite legislators from the housing committees. We're hoping maybe to get our FHFA director Pulte in this year. We've had acting directors and directors in the past. We got a great lineup for this year's Ledge Conference. I would encourage all your viewers to come find out what that's about in DC. It's on our website, namb.org. Yep. You can find out. You can even register to attend. It's a fantastic event. The lineup of speakers this year is fantastic, but that's primarily because your board and your committees, your GA committee, that's their sole focus. Sounds like you already talked with Marvin and Lauren about that stuff, which is great. They're driving the advocacy. They're working on important things too for us, like loan officer compensation.
Yep.
Huge, right? It's huge, because we want to be on the same playing field. Brokers give the most opportunity to buyers to get personal attention, knowledge of the industry, and they're able to help them shop for the loans with the best pricing and the best programs.
Yeah.
That's a big,
and the most choices, more than any other
choices. And that's not to say bankers are bad people, because they're not. But you go to get a loan at the bank, you got one option, right? Here with brokers, you got tons of options. That's why I always love the broker channel. I think it's fantastic, and I encourage everybody, if you're going to get into this business, look at being a loan officer and tie yourself to a broker. Yeah. It's very, very, very opportunistic, and the sky's the limit, as you guys have talked about earlier.
And one more point. So as you're wrapping up, because we like to keep us, it's like wanting more from Jeff Parry. For those who are not a member of NAMB, talk about, some of the things that they're going to benefit besides the advocacy, which you talked about as far as the legislation and keeping everything rolling there. What are some of the other things, and how can someone become a member?
Well, first of all, you can become a member of NAMB by joining from the website.
Right.
And we have a bunch of options. The easiest one is our monthly membership. You just sign up, and every month it just continues to process. You don't have to think about it. If you can cancel at any time. But once you're a member, you get some significant discounts on some of our certification classes. It also includes free CE every year. So everybody knows you got to do 8 hours of CE every year. So why not get it for free? Matter of fact, the cost of your
From the
CE,
association, yeah.
yeah, the cost of the CE would cost about as much as it costs you to join the association.
Yep.
In addition, you get access to webinars, right? You can see some of the webinars that we put on for some of our sponsors. You get access to NAMB Hive, which is something that Ginger, you're the queen bee, and you can join our Success Builder calls every week. So membership also gives you the opportunity to get certain certifications. We talked about that briefly. It would also get you introduced to some of the people. You come to the events as members. You can come to the events for either free or for discounted entry fees. So those benefits alone far exceed the cost.
Right.
But the other benefits we talked about a little bit about how you could do it. So those are the things. We also have a toolbox. Our toolbox gives you access to technology and materials that you can do. AI is super big. I know, Ginger, you're a huge fan of AI. A lot of our stuff in the NAMB toolbox is related to AI and how it can help you improve your business. I use it every day. It's a huge part of my business. And if anybody wants to know how that is, maybe Ginger will invite us back and we can talk about that on another call. So those are just some of the benefits. Now, I can't let the cat out of the bag too much, but Matt's on a committee with me. Our committee, this year we have 5 initiatives. It went up to 5, Matt. Sorry, I didn't tell you about the 5th one.
Not a problem. We'll tackle them.
What we're looking to do is to create multiple levels of membership, right? So far we got a courtesy of membership, which is as a new to the business, you're allowed to be a courtesy member. There's no cost. You get to experience NAMB and what it's like. And then we have our basic professional membership. But we're looking at adding additional levels of membership that include different things. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I can give you a couple of hints. There may be some health benefits included in that package down the road, right? We're looking at a government affairs membership that would include money to support the political action committee. PAC is a huge thing. And without our PAC money, folks, we couldn't have got to the trigger bill, because I told you it cost in excess. It's 7 years, $250,000 of time and money. And that's real money. That's not building in time for people's time, because remember, we're all volunteers.
Yeah.
Okay. We're all volunteers. And that's the best part about this. When you volunteer in something, you care about it, and you actually get stuff done. We're going to improve the process to join. Right now, we get so many options. As a matter of fact, if you're in a state that doesn't have an association membership, give me a call, and we'll help you start one in your own state.
Yeah.
We just we started one.
We have a lot of states starting too.
We do. We have a lot of states. New England just formed one yesterday.
Nice.
They became a new association. The Carolinas just joined together to create a new association. So if you want to join an association and you haven't got one already, let us know. We'll help you form the entity. We'll give you some money to get that started. We'll teach you how to do it. We'll actually come to your organizational meeting, meet your members, and talk to them about the value of membership and being part.
I love it.
We're also looking at, by the way, that was the third initiative, was the state resource. I kind of jumped ahead there. So that was one of our initiatives, to build more states, more states, help them to be more successful. And then the last thing, which is a big one, is a development and implementation of a rewards program. If you're volunteering and you're doing things like referring members, you're coming to events, you're doing things to help your community and help NAMB thrive, we want to reward you. And I can't tell you how that's going to be. I can't tell you what the rewards are, but it's coming. And we're working on that as a big initiative for 2025, 2026. And when we get that up and running, I'd be happy to come back and tell everybody just about the rewards program and how that works.
Well, we look forward to hearing about all of these. But the main thing is, and you already said it, it's like, you're part of an industry, and you have an association where you can meet people, you can get certified, you can have, that standout, you can get the education and have the camaraderie and to build those relationships and mentorship and things like that. And I think that in itself is so rewarding and so worthwhile. And so, Jeff, I want to thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your time. I know you, as a volunteer, give so much to NAMB, and we appreciate everything that you do. And so for our listeners, reach out. Jeff, his information is on the NAMB website, namb.org. Connect with him. If you're a young professional, make sure and get onto one of our young professional calls. We have our NAMB podcast every week. We have a podcast out. You can get on the NAMB Hive. We have our Facebook group now for the NAMB Hive. So it's NAMB Hive now, and get involved. And I think that's the most important thing, because, it's all just a matter of being in the right place at the right time. And thank goodness that you were, Jeff.
Yes.
You got into this industry.
Thank the Lord every day. And I appreciate you guys doing this. It's fantastic. You guys bring great shows to our viewers, and really happy that you guys have put your time together to put together such a great podcast. And I was honored to be asked. So thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Definitely we'll have you back again.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. And Matt, as always, thank you so much. And make sure and tune in every week. You can find our information at nambpodcast.com. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the NAMB Podcast, brought to you by the National Association of Mortgage Brokers. For more episodes, resources, and guest interviews, visit nambpodcast.com. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you soon.